Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Before we introduce who our guest is for today's interview, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to really help unite people that are seeking service through stories of service to great people too. And, we really want to empower people to go out there and serve. And we think that Rotary is the vehicle to do it.
And find fellowship.
Good
Yes.
tie-in. I love it. Fellowship is very important.
Who's our guest?
Our guest today is Luis Carranza. He is our District 5340 Governor Nominee for year 2025 and 2026. And
That's
also
California.
in California. And he's also a friend of mine from our mortgage industry. So
Hilarious.
Cool.
I know it is a small world, but we hope that you enjoy this interview. There's a lot of great takeaways from somebody who lives across the country.
That's right.
So,
Get pumped. Here it comes.
I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. I also want to thank our sponsor, Russell Hampton, the #1 Rotary printer in the country. They can print anything for you. If you're watching online, you can see some of the swag they sent us with the Rotary logo, the new mission on Joe's cup. But the last mission. But they can help you with your Rotary Club printing or any printing in business. RussellHampton.com. Check them out.
I just realized I'm not a very good Vanna White. I'm trying my best,
It's okay.
but it looks kind of awkward.
Most of you guys that are listening to this, it's going to be audio.
You're just listening.
Like,
You
what
don't
the
have
hell
to
are they
see.
talking about?
Well, we have a great guest on today, somebody who I know personally, and that is Luis Carranza. I can't roll my R's, so I'm not going to even try.
Where's Conrad when we need him?
I know. District 5340 Governor Nominee for years 2025 and 2026. Welcome, friend.
Well, hello.
We're
Thank
happy
you
to
so much
have
for
you.
that. I'm excited to be on. This is great.
Well, and I just have to share with our listeners before we dive in and get to know you a little bit better, how we know one another. And that is through the mortgage industry back in 2017. And I always like to share this with people. There's two components to my Rotary story. I won't go deep into this, but I will never forget. You were like, Kelly, get involved in Rotary. And that was back in 2017.
That's so funny.
I did.
He did. He was like,
I didn't realize that it was him that just said that.
Yes,
remember
it
this.
was. He said, get involved with your local Rotary. And I did a little bit of just a little bit of research, but it just kind of ended up falling through the cracks. And then, fast forward 2021, I believe, 2022. I can't even remember now. It just feels like for all of
22.
22. Yeah, 2022. And I always like to share that. So now you know that you were a component to that. So
You were her inspiration.
yes, part of the inspiration. But let's our listeners know nothing about you. So let's have an opportunity for them to get to know you. You must share, where are you at right now?
Well, currently I'm in San Diego, California. I would say sunny with beautiful weather, but unfortunately, this winter's been a little colder in San Diego, California than normal. But it's still around 61 degrees, cloudy, blue skies, but we still have the beach, so that's a good thing. But I'm here from San Diego. I was actually born originally in Tijuana, which is just south of the border, and then moved here at 7 years old, and pretty much been living here my whole life. And I went to school here, went to college here at UCSD, and I've been in the mortgage industry for 20 plus years. And then I did I also played violin growing up in high school, and then a few years into college and beyond that, I got to travel with the San Diego Youth Symphony around Europe for about 10 years. And
Wow.
so I got to really understand cultures around the world and understand how music is such an international language and a language of peace. And then after that, focused really a lot on work, and then discovered Rotary. And then through Rotary, it's interesting how Rotary is also an international language of peace.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's just kind of funny how that worked, music and then
Yeah.
Rotary, all of that
I
kind of
I
circled
figured you
around.
might tie that in somehow.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
How long ago did
yeah,
you join Rotary?
I entered Rotary in 2004. But
Wow.
but when I kind of like Kelly, I was a manager at Bank of America back in the day in the city of Rancho Santa Fe, which is here in San Diego. For those who may be familiar with San Diego, there's a town called Del Mar, where the Del Mar racetracks is. It's just
Mhm.
about 5 miles east of Del Mar racetracks, town called Rancho Santa Fe. And I happened to be working in this bank, and the manager said, "Hey, Juan, would you like to come and visit this Rotary Club?" And I said, "What is it about?" And she told me, but all I kept thinking was, "Oh, network, network, network."
Yeah.
And so eventually I went there, and there was amazing people. And I went into it, I joined, but I entered for probably the wrong reasons, knowing what I know about Rotary now. And so the first few years that I was there, I wasn't really, I didn't really understand Rotary. I really wasn't there. And I didn't understand what I wanted out of Rotary other than I was looking for network opportunities, but I wasn't really there for the right reason. So it took me several years to really understand it. And then I almost left it. And I had my dues. I was so far behind on dues because I went through that period of time for you guys who might remember the mortgage and real estate meltdown back in
Yeah.
2008, and I was way behind on dues, and I was about to quit. And then I got a call from the president. His name is Patrick, and he called me, and I wasn't returning his calls, but he never stopped calling. And then he said, "Hey, Luis, I don't want you to quit. We want you back. I want you back. All I ask is, look, we'll rework something with your dues. We'll do some kind of a scholarship for you to get back. But all I ask is that you be present and you be involved in the community. And if you can do that, we want you back." And so I said, I was touched. I honestly, I was like, what the heck's going on here?
Mm.
And so from that point on, I started showing up. I started getting involved. I started volunteering. And then I was realized like, he must have seen something that I didn't see in myself, but he saw it, and the board saw it, and the members saw it. And so from that point on, it changed my life. And then the president after that also kept up with me. And from that point on, I really started getting involved with Rotary and really understood what it was about. And then from that point on, here I am, a year and a half away from being district governor of San Diego County and Imperial County. I'm like, I don't know what the heck happened.
That's pretty cool.
That's
That
incredible.
it
And
is.
if you don't mind, maybe go back and think about, at that time when you were about to quit, because I think a lot of people go into this place is, what was your psychology around it? And then what was the opportunity that maybe they saw in you kind of in retrospect now that you're on the other side, or maybe you've been able to do the same thing for somebody else? But talk about that, because I think that there's a lot of people that are out there that, one of their fears about joining an organization like Rotary is the commitment and, the buy-in, and maybe just help outline some of your psychology at that moment, because I think that that's a big moment for you, obviously. But I think that happens to a lot of us, is where like, oh, life is just getting so busy, or, oh, the dues are adding up, or, and just that psychology around that, and maybe explain a little bit more of where you were at that time.
Yes, I think, from a financial standpoint, it was a very, very difficult time. So we all go through those times.
Mhm.
But in reality, the club was willing to help me, which I thought was amazing. But the financial part could have still been a problem, but truly, it was for me. It was a time in my life where I realized there was something missing that was not fulfilling my spirit inside. There was something missing that, sometimes we rely so much on work to fulfill an emptiness that's maybe missing in your life. And so that could be various things. But for me, I think it was, how can I get back to fulfill that soul, to fulfill your soul in your life? What can fulfill that happiness that maybe you need in your life? And for me, it was like me helping others, me reaching out to have an impact in the community or impact people's life. I didn't realize actually fulfilled me in happiness. And so, of course, it was a long journey to get to a point where I felt like that I had to learn to love myself too. And so giving back and helping impact other people's lives. And in that journey, Rotary was part of that, in fulfilling myself to understand that I also had to love myself. And so I think that going back into the community and helping in projects and volunteering was the beginning process of me getting back into a point in life where I felt like this is part of a journey of a much bigger picture of not only personally, but also to help impact and make a difference, not just in my life, but others, and then helping others also fulfill that journey. The financial part eventually was going to fix itself, but I think the fulfilling part of your soul and your spirit and your heart, I think that was the one that really drove me the most, because when you start seeing the faces of people that you're helping, it really made you feel good. It made me go back home and feel like I was doing something good. And then you wake up the next morning, you want to do it again. And of course, you're not going to be able to do it every time or every day, but every little step helped that journey as you moved on.
It's powerful.
Yeah, thank you for
Yes,
sharing.
it is.
Very much.
Well, I love the idea of that you first joined Rotary as a networking group, and I'm sure that the three of us here, we've all been entrepreneurial, so
Yeah.
we've joined our fair share of networking groups, and you go in there and you're like, all right, let's get referrals, and then
Yeah.
very quickly realizing that Rotary is not that type of organization, and it's a long burn, it's a long run, and it's reflective of how much you give to the club is what you receive.
Well, but here's the thing is, and I'm going to share something quickly with you guys, because I just recently was at my club yesterday, and we are in our district, we're about to have a district training assembly, which we do once a year. And it's an opportunity for members to, whether new or you've been there for a long time, to come in and get a little bit of training or understand what things you can do as a Rotarian. But my club's kind of been stale lately. And what I mean by stale is that they just haven't been getting involved. Members have not been getting involved in doing more activities, more, getting involved in projects. So they asked me if I could mention this district training assembly coming up next week. So I went up to them, and normally, when you've been to Rotary clubs, they'll make an announcement about something coming up, right? So I said, you know what, I got to do something different, because sometimes you got to just change it up, right? So I went up there and I said, why are you Rotarian? I said, I'm going to be district governor here in the next year and a half. But starting today, we need to start asking ourselves the question, why am I a Rotarian? And you need to ask yourself that question. And that's kind of how the conversation went. And as I was going through that conversation, I went through several things, and I won't take too much time of that. But when it came, there was one part related to vocational service. And I said to everyone, raise your hand and tell me who's currently in a profession working actively right now. And everybody raised their hands. A lot of people. And I said, okay, great. Now tell me how many people here are retired or homemakers. And people raise their hands. And I go, great. But have, experience in the past. And so we were talking about that. And they raised their hands, and I said, okay, do you understand that Rotary was started by professionals, that it was started as a network group? You understand that your profession and your experience whether you're retired or currently working as a profession, is so sorely needed in Rotary. At your profession, we need that experience, whether you're retired and you have that from the past or currently working. And these opportunities to go to these training sessions are sorely needed so that we can use that experience in order for us to be able to use that to impact the communities, those organizations that we're trying to help, and those leaders that we're trying to create, so that we can continue the process of really, really doing good around the world. I said, do you know that those things that we do on a daily basis will create so many good things, will create love around the world? When we walk outside of this room, there's so much negativity outside of this room and in the world. But then if we can change one person's life because of the leadership that you guys bring, the professionals, whether it's financial consultant, mortgage loan, real estate, whatever you do, that experience you can provide to Rotarians. I said, so yes, you can do a lot with your profession. You can bring that professionalism here in Rotary. It's just that we shy away sometimes to say, hey, how about we dedicate one day, instead of bringing a speaker, we bring our Rotarians and actually have professionals within our Rotarian members and say, hey, let's talk and bring up financial consultants or a real estate day, and bring up Rotarians that are maybe in real estate, financial consultants and loan officers, and have a speaking, panel of speakers, and dedicate one session per quarter, or do the same with other professions. Because don't we need to, isn't part of our policy, isn't part of our dedication to dedicate the 4-way test and apply it also to our profession? Guess what? Some of our clubs in our district do that, but a lot of clubs have shied away because they think, oh, we can't talk profession.
I love the idea of even just keeping that conversation broad. If you don't even go specifically into a specific segment of real estate or something, but just talking about how to apply, the 4-way test, the values of Rotary into your business, like how to do that effectively. Like how are you messaging to your clients? How are you messaging to friends and family and people? How are you messaging to the community and ensuring that you are having integrity? And I think that there's so much. I mean, I don't think I've ever been. I mean, I've never done a vocational happy hour, so I'm sure that that's a pretty solid start. But I think that you're right. I think that as Rotary clubs, like that's an opportunity for a club to reignite their membership is through the vocation.
Yeah,
I think like we're sitting here, we're spinning our tires trying to figure out how do we keep our members engaged? How do we get new membership? And maybe that's a component that we need to look at.
Let me give you another quick example. There's a lot of I don't know how it is in your districts, but I know in San Diego we have some of them, some amazing Rotaract clubs and Interact clubs. And so for those who don't know about Rotaracts, they're usually on school campuses like colleges. We have a couple here in San Diego at UCSD and SDSU, and then we have community Rotaracts. So imagine if we take active Rotarians who are in their professions and become mentors and be speakers. You know that some of these college campuses can use professionals to go talk to these students because they need mentoring, how to become a lawyer, or what it is experience to be a franchise, somebody wants to franchise a business or something like that. Interactors in high school or middle schools, there's so much opportunity out there. I get a lot of referrals throughout the year from Rotarians. Do I actively go get them? No. You know how I get them? Because they see me out there working, volunteering, and they ask me, hey, what do you do? And then the word gets out. Oh, Luis is doing this. But they see the commitment and the integrity of how I do my work in Rotary, and they see if I do this out there, then they connect that with my work. Yeah. Of course, as you guys know, the toughest deals to do are usually the ones for Rotarians because you don't want to But true story. That's how I get them. But it's true. But that's how you get them, and so you develop a reputation that hey, if Luis does this kind of work and we trust him, then why wouldn't I want to do alone with him? You know, and
Yeah.
so
Well, and if you don't mind, I think that this touches on a couple other episodes that we've been having recently about the connections between Interact, Rotaract, and Rotary, and how sometimes it's very disjointed. It is here anyway. It sounds
Yeah.
like you guys have a little bit more of connection.
Synchronicity.
But it is interesting. Vocation seems to be a nice tool. I mean, we just had in our club a bunch of high schoolers that came in and we did kind of a mentoring piece to that. And I was
Mhm.
like, this was so much fun. This is so great to share some of this stuff. And
It was. Yeah.
oh my gosh, if I was a high schooler, I wish I would have had
Yeah.
this type of, but we really seem to be hitting on vocation here in this interview. And I like that. And how, it's definitely one of the underplayed components of Rotary, and maybe rightfully so. Maybe, service is definitely the core component, but vocational seems to be a catalyst. I want to say like it's almost like the fire, like some of the fire that you can really get going and it's tangible.
Yeah.
Keeps your members engaged because they've got some skin in the game and potential gain from the outcomes. I'm not really sure where I'm trying to go with this, but it's
You're
been
connecting dots
Yeah,
from
it's
the
been
previous episodes.
it's been fun to talk about the vocation component, and sometimes it
it's
does
one
get
of the
more
things. That's one of the things that many clubs have not been able to connect because it's almost become like can't talk about it, but it's actually
Taboo.
part of Rotary, and we can use that experience that we have to connect to the things that we love doing in Rotary. It's actually one of the most important things that we can use, not only to promote Rotary, but to also build membership and also to help those Rotaractors, those interactors that so much need our guidance and mentorship. There's so many things that we can connect while using that profession, all those experiences that we have. And so I'll give you an example. I've been visiting San Diego State frequently, and just to give you an idea, we now have all of our Rotaract clubs under one assistant governor. We have never done that before. So now we have all the Rotaractors, all the Rotaract clubs now under one assistant governor. That had never happened before. We are now communicating more frequently with our Rotaractors. When we go visit a Rotaract club, now we're connecting where they come to us if they need help, if they need mentorship. We're still not anywhere close to where we want to be, but just recently, one of the students came to me in November, said they had applied to the district attorney's office student work internship program. They hadn't been heard from them at all. So then I started calling all different Rotarians, and some of them had connections. Within about 5 weeks or so, somebody was able to get a hold of somebody in the district attorney's office in San Diego, got her an interview, and she got the job. And she
Wow.
starts
I love that.
this coming month. How do you think that impacts that life? Think about that. Think about how that impacted, because we made the time to do that. Rotarians did. And so that's what I'm saying is
One of the ways.
that's just one person. So imagine if we all came together. And so anyways, I can go on. We can talk about so much, but
Well, you kind of
It's just
see
an idea.
why the vocation though has been put on the back burner when you look at the historic demographic of Rotarians, where it's been aging, right?
Mhm.
And so if you've got a vast majority of your Rotary club is retired, or I mean, vocation doesn't have a huge voice in that room, whereas I think more and more we're starting to see clubs get younger and younger and younger, and the vocation piece is becoming more and more important. And we're also seeing how impactful it is. Like, it's so interesting. Even just this conversation, I'm connecting some dots, like even just within our own club, and going, wow, like that could be so much more powerful. And like we could use this as a membership drive, like blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
I'm just going, and it's interesting because sometimes the answers are just right in front of your face.
I know sometimes common sense. It's almost it's so simple. Sometimes you just don't see it. Another thing that I would just tell you that we're looking into, things that I'm looking into as I come as district governor, but we're already having that conversation, is really looking into the districts instead of waiting for clubs to sponsor new clubs, is actually district sponsoring clubs, specialized clubs. For example, why do we have to wait for why do we have to do things traditionally? This is the thing I love about Stephanie Urchik, is like, we need to try new things. Why do we have to have a club that does things for an hour and a half, and we have to sit around for an hour and a half and do, we need to let clubs run the way that works for them. One of the things I feel the future may be for Rotary is to run it like a Rotaract club. So if you guys have never gone to a Rotaract meeting, do it. It is such an inspiration to me. It's so energetic. Most of these Rotaract, especially the community ones, they usually meet twice a month. But guess what they do a lot? They do a lot of projects.
Yeah.
And this new generation of Rotaractors, they want to do things to the community. They'll meet, but they usually like meeting about an hour. And they usually like, when they do meet, they'll meet like in a social event, like a happy hour. But what they really want to do is projects. And because you know what? They want to be productive. They want to impact. This is the new generation that's coming out. And so they don't want to sit there for an hour and a half and listen to people kind of, they don't want that. And so you wonder how we're going to grow Rotary. That's how we're going to grow Rotary. So then why don't we start thinking about opening Rotary clubs that actually can be modeled like a Rotaract, and then go to those Rotaractors and say, hey, would you want to open a Rotary club and model it as a Rotaract club, and we'll sponsor it? They looked at me like, yeah, because if you ask them right now, why don't you go to a Rotary club? They'll tell you, because it's boring. Yeah. Seriously, ask Rotaractors, why don't you go there? That's the first thing they'll tell you. It's such a different pace. That's what I'm saying is, if you ever want to know why Rotaractors don't go to Rotary clubs, go to a Rotaract club meeting. It's so much fun.
It's a good challenge for us. I like that, because I've never been to one. And I've always wondered, like, how is there not this really healthy farm system of Rotarians as we have these other organizations? It's like, how do we not have all these young people joining our clubs?
Yep.
And it's just fascinating, because there is a massive disconnect. We're just, we're preaching to the choir here. We already know that there's a massive disconnect.
Can I give you a tad example? I know we're getting close to running time, but I want to give you a tad example.
Oh, you got lots of time. You're good.
Well, so my first meeting, I've gone to UCSD and SDSU, but one of the things they do now, think about when we were in college, how stressful it is to get ready for finals or midterms and stuff. So, for example, at UCSD, they have a karma, where they put a QR code. So what happens is, it's kind of like happy dollars, sort of, but they call it karma dollars. So what happens is the students line up because they need karma dollars. And in other words, karma, because they'll go up there and they'll line up, like maybe 5 or like anywhere from 5 to 10 of them will line up, and they'll stand up in front of all their peers, and they'll say, listen, I have a final coming up, and it's tomorrow. I haven't studied for it. But I'm gonna pull an all-nighter tonight, so I can use all the karma. So I'm gonna give $10 today, and then other students will put the QR code, and then they'll give $100, right? And then you'll have other ones do the same similar. And I visited them a couple of times during a year at UCSD, and this one girl came up the second time, which I remember seeing her the first time, and she said something very similar. And then she looked at me and she goes, hey, I know I said the same thing a year ago, but this isn't me normally. But I'm just telling you, that's just one sample of how different and how lively and how energetic they are. And everybody there has like a committee. And every week, UCSD and SDSU, almost every week, they have a project They do something every weekend. They actually, some of these Rotary actors almost do a project more often than a regular Rotary club. And yet these guys are studying. These guys have midterms and finals and quizzes every week, but yet they find almost every week they're doing projects. And guess what? Rotarians don't know about it because they're not connected with newsletters. They're not connected with Club Runner or the other systems that are used. So Rotarians don't know that. They don't know what Rotary actors are doing because they're not connected on our system. So so there's a disconnect right there alone.
It also reminds me of the adage, never ask somebody who doesn't have a lot to do something. You know what I mean? Like it's always the people that are super busy that you ask to do things because they're the ones that do things.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that there wasn't the accessibility to like club runner and then the newsletters.
Yep.
Especially if they're sponsored by another Rotary. That doesn't something doesn't connect there.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing seems to mean, and I'm not going to say that I understand how it works, but it just seems like there's an easier way.
Apparently, we just found out through Club Runner that they're coming up with a beta test for Club Runner, and we asked them to put our district in that. And apparently, if the district has this Club Runner, they're gonna give it to the Rotary actors. So we said, please use us as a beta test because it's such a disconnect. So how on earth are we supposed to grow? How are we supposed to be able to connect?
Yeah.
Unless you do it like we're trying to do it now manually, otherwise it's a major disconnect. But anyways, I just mentioned this because we have to be able to, in order for us to connect, in order for us to learn, in order for us to be able to use our vocational experience and to grow as Rotarians and to make an impact, not just on what we're doing now, but to connect in the young people's lives that are our future, we need to understand what the challenges are too. And so, but I think if in your community, if you want to grow your membership, if you want to grow Rotary actors, is that invite them to your clubs, ask them to be speakers, go visit them, go to a meeting, make time. You'll see how much the need is. They need your help. They need your mentorship. They need to know what it is to be a loan officer, a real estate agent. Inspire them because they need to be inspired. They need to know you care. Because it's just remember how it was to be a college student, and remind the elderly that guess what? It costs to go to college. They don't have money because every time I get in a meeting and they say, well, why aren't they contributing? Why don't they contribute to get a grant or whatever? I'm like, dude, they're in college.
Yeah.
They're eating ramen. I mean, come on.
They're running on ramen and beer.
Sorry to talk so much. There's so much I could talk about, but I just kind of want to give you an idea what's going on.
Yeah. Well, so Luis, tell us how long have you been a Rotarian then?
2004.
2004.
Might give my age away, Kelly. Oh my gosh.
It was 2004. Sorry.
2004.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying this is my age away. So, no, 2004.
You have really
he joined when he was 7.
Really good experience.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah, and obviously, like having had that experience, it is what has helped get you to the point of being the governor nominee here for 2025 and 2026. So
yeah, I would say
you're going to have stories.
The last 10 years have really helped me a lot. I would say, yeah.
Are you willing to share what you're really going to focus on in your governor year? Like, do you have specific things that you're really passionate about? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the vocation, the Rotaract, the younger folks, getting them more involved into Rotary. But are there areas that you're really hoping to focus on?
Well, I'm still preparing for my year. I mean, there's a lot of works. There's a lot of things in my district that I plan to make changes on. I won't get into that because I'm still in the works. But I think from what I plan to do and talk about with my district is, and I've shared a little bit already what I did with my club, is I really want to focus to remind them why they're Rotarians. That's really the one thing that I want to focus on, because my goal is to inspire them, is to remind them why they're here. And the one thing that that part of that message will be is look at everything that you're doing. Look at all the things that each one of you, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's giving back, whether it's volunteering, look at everything that all the Rotarians are doing, and what does that equal to? And so, as I go through that story, because a lot of what I notice a lot of district governors do, and it's not a criticism, it's an observation, is they'll go through their history, and then they'll go through slides, or they go through a prepared speech. But I also feel that, like in our business, whether it's real estate or whatever you do, people know when you're genuine, when you're talking through a piece of paper. But what I know is, because I know I'm this way, is that people pay more attention when you're talking real. Like, I'm Catholic, and when I go to church, I mean, I can tell when a priest being a priest, or when he's being like a human, like when he's talking like hey, like reality. And those are the ones those are the people that when you can tell when people are genuine and they get your attention. Well, my thing is, when I talk about why you're Rotarian and why you're here, is adding up everything that you do, everything that Rotarians are doing. And my question is going to be at the end is, what does that all add up to? And then when I get to the end of adding all those good things that Rotarians do, including them, is all that adds up to one word, and that one word is love. And so if we can do all that as Rotarians, not just here locally, but around the world, and we can share that word love through our actions, just as much as if we can do that every day and dedicate that every day in through our actions, and not just our words, but through our actions, then we can have an impact throughout the world, because there's so much negativity. Imagine if we can talk about love through actions, not just words, then we can impact in a positive way what goes on in the world. Because it only, and that's going to be my message, is that it's important for us to think about that every day. And then our goal is to have an impact every day in a positive way. And so that's really going to be my message, because I can talk about operational stuff. I can talk about, and there'll be some time for that. Right. And I'll have a team for that to talk about. But my main message is going to be that. There will be some things, for example, I haven't decided whether some of the focus will be on homelessness. That's something that I do want to do, but I don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. I'd rather put when I talk about homelessness, there's so much that goes around it. I mean, it's also about preventing it. What can we do about? I mean, there's so much around it, and so my goal is to try to put some kind of committee with different organizations to come together and say, how can we do something that's not just putting a Band-Aid on it, but actually putting these organizations to come together and talk about something that can be more of a lasting effect than just putting a Band-Aid on it, And so we can get organizations to talk about it. Another thing I'm hoping to work with Kiwanis and Lions and come to the county of San Diego, and what we're hoping to do, and maybe this is something your county, maybe this is an idea for you guys too, is to have our county make September Service Month, where we can get the Kiwanis and other service organizations and really bring attention to the county to say, hey, we got all these month of this and month of that. Well, how about we do it Service Month and let the communities know that there's amazing service organizations, and bring attention to that to the counties. Orange County, which is just north of us, does that. They just did it for the first time this past year. And
was it successful?
It was successful, absolutely.
Well, there you go.
So I mean, but imagine like if you guys were to do it, and we can get other districts to do it. Wouldn't that be great if we can get it nationwide at some point? Like have a nationwide.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the vision.
So, anyways,
I also had one idea for you if you wanted to shake it up, presenting to your clubs. you should dress as Mufasa. And I just like when you were talking about like we have to remember who we are, why we joined. I just think about that scene in The Lion King. Remember who you are, like from the clouds,
gosh.
like.
You know,
And
I
then,
have
and then you can play "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?"
Oh my
oh my
God.
God. You know, I have my one of my mentors who was my district governor. He used to dress up like similar to that, but he would wear like a Snoopy suit or he would wear a Darth Vader suit, and he was a funny guy. But no, but that just gives you a little preview of things that I would like to do. But I think as leaders, we have to learn to inspire others. And as leaders, we also have to be able to mentor new leaders, to create new leaders, because if we don't, then you will continue to see membership drop throughout the different districts. But our leaders are sitting there in Rotaract. Our leaders are sitting there in other organizations. So, we need to get the young people, but those young people are young professionals. So we need to start not being afraid to talk about vocation.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about specialties. We need to start embracing LGBTQ communities. We're about to open a new one here in spring in San Diego for the first time. I know Minnesota has one. Somebody contacted me recently, one of the founding members, and it's going to come to San Diego, I think, in August. So, so I'm just saying is we have to be open to being creative and opening up to opportunities, thinking differently. We also have a Solana Beach Eco Club here in San Diego that's focused on environmental causes. So guess what? Why can't we have different causes that specifically to other causes? We can have a young professionals Rotary Club.
Right.
Why not? They focus on their professions.
Growth, and they serve through that. Yeah.
So anyways, that's my
interesting. Luis, I want to really applaud you on something. We talk so much about, getting new membership, and what I love about your angle at how you're going to approach district governor is really focusing on the Rotarians we have and energizing them again, because an energized Rotary Club will attract more Rotary members.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get so focused on new members from the outside, where a lot of times it's also, reigniting the current membership and reminding them of exactly why they're Rotarians and of exactly what Rotary can do for them and for their community. I think that's great. You're the first person that I think I've heard say that in a long time. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We only have like a few minutes left here, Luis. And so one of the parting questions that I'd like you to answer is, now it totally
hard or soft shell.
It just totally like it's out of my brain, and actually here it is. So what are some like parting words of wisdom that you could give somebody who's listening to this show right now and is maybe inquisitive, or they're questioning whether Rotary is a good route for them or not?
I would say that if you don't know Rotary is part of you or not, is you don't have to be a Rotarian to make a difference. But if you want to be part of a fun group and want to make friends, we're here. Again, you don't have to be part of Rotary to make a difference, but we're here if you want to be part of a family, because we welcome you. And we would love to have you on board. And if you do, that's awesome. But if you don't, guess what? Rotary has programs where you can still participate and not be part of us.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That was really great. Well, thank you all the way from semi-sunny San Diego for taking time out of your day to come and
you guys need to come out here. You guys need to come out here one day. So
maybe we need to encourage Lloyd to allow us to go to San Diego and do a show there.
You know what? You guys should do. You guys should. I wish I would have caught you guys so you would come down at our Zone Institute when we had it here in November, but we'll have to figure something out.
Yeah.
Or hey, actually, I have a better idea. Come at next year's Southwest Pets in LA. We always have it at LAX Marriott. Come
Yeah.
there. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be a fun? We have by far, I'm not kidding. I'm telling you, we have the best pets in all of the United States, if not the world. I'm telling you, it's so much fun.
There you go.
Well, Lloyd, if you're listening,
Just
Just so you know, and we make the fun. It's in LA. It's in LA.
yeah, never been, but
Really?
nope, just San Diego. Just San Diego. That's the only place in California I've been. But anywho, Luis, thank you again. Such an honor. And you had some really great kind of parting words
Amazing
there. So
Yeah, that's
stuff.
good.
very nice.
Well, thank you guys. You guys were awesome.
Yes, no problem. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Good interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Passionate.
Yeah. What I had written down is that he's a big idea guy, and he's good at connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And so he's just kind of the epitome of a Rotarian, in my humble opinion.
I thought it was really cool, his story too, about early on what Rotary really changed his life, you know, in tougher times, and how he's given back. And it was nice to talk more about, you know, the vocational and the fellowship side and how important that is on top of some of the service things we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some guests on that kind of give us that reminder that vocational was kind of the cornerstone of how Rotary started. And we've gotten away from that, and now we're kind of coming back to it.
Well, we veered into service, right? Like,
Right.
which is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think
And how do
that
you create a balance?
yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that it was a product of the demographics of Rotary that, you know, as the demographic of Rotary became older, well, more and more of them are retiring, and that
This is true.
vocation is no longer as big of a cornerstone piece. But and to your point, with new membership, younger people coming in, that vocation is really coming back
It's
into
making a
focus
shift.
again.
Yeah.
Well, he was awesome.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed that nice interview. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
It's time to stop searching
And start serving.
See you next week.